Our next speaker, he has an extensive background in security. He's located in Irving with his business, Online Business Systems. Too often, professionals are unable to identify and effectively correct risks. Patrick is one of the few that can. Let me introduce Mr. Patrick Hayes with his speech titled, "The Truth About Lies and Cyber Fallacy."
Hey, thanks. It sounded a lot cooler when I put it on the slides. So, as you said, I've got a little bit of experience in security. I started probably when a few of you did, when it wasn't really sexy. I thought every single company had a cybersecurity division. Far before we actually started using the word cyber. I don't know how that became interesting, but anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that this morning. I've held roles, everything from enterprise security architect to currently managing director of security operations for Online Business Systems. So I support our company and I also support our customers as well with security operations. In case you're wondering why I'm talking about the subject. So, where are we and why are we here? These are some of the things that we're going to touch on in my little bit of time that I have with you. I'm going to talk about cyber. I'm going to talk about machine learning and AI and all those kind of newly introduced terms that I'm not sure if it's really the vendor community or the analyst community or just us in general want to get to those topics. The good, bad, and the profitable, which ties into the last. I'm going to talk about a little bit of things that I've seen over the last 20 plus years that I've been doing this. And I'm going to talk about some considerations. So before we go leaping ahead with the future of where I think every vendor wants us to be, and maybe even some of the analysts want us to spend our money on, the realistic notions of what information security really and truly still is. So, for the last couple of years, we've been told that winter's coming. Right? Does it feel like winter's coming? Winter's coming, not in Texas, right? Winter's not quite coming in Texas, but, you know, I'd say for a few logos, winter surely has come. And it's coming for you. So, how do we prepare for winter? We know it's coming. We know that winter has come for many of our peers and other large organizations that we know of and that we've heard of and that we've complained about. We've talked about things like privacy. Some of us, like me, old guy like myself, grew up with the belief that privacy was something that I owned and that I controlled and that I had. We're now in a world where privacy really is true again. I have kids that don't even understand the definition of privacy anymore. Their whole life has been spilled out on social media. And, you know, for a large portion of for our population, that would be true. I think that even our government leaders have spilled out most of what we do in front of the general population. So I think the notion of privacy really truly is dead. Well, and then we look to the large IT institutions who, you know, we have institutional trust for. We trust that these folks have our privacy at heart. I really like this, by the way. I read it and I went, oh yeah, that's what my granddad would say about security, right? Oh, what kind of cookies are my son? And it's true. By the way, just a note, for those of you that are kind of checking your hearing, and hopefully you can hear me, maybe I need to hold the mic a little closer. I am Canadian, that's an accent, so bear with me. I do live in Dallas now, though. So, now when we consider the thought of security as it relates to our organizations, we grew up with our corporate infrastructure and we built a moat around it. And that moat was meant to protect us, to keep out the bad people, keep out the attackers. Well, I think it's been proven that the moat is only somewhat effective, especially depending on what's inside, right? So, if you're only protecting the perimeter, we've been told, that's kind of like a donut, right? Or a jam buster. Do you guys have jam busters here? I don't know, it might be a Canadian thing. It's got a nice, hard outside, crunchy outside, but it's got a really soft inside. Well, I think that's largely what we've been doing for the last number of years. Maybe not so much recently, but for the last number of years. Anybody know who Kevin Roberts is? Nobody? Well, I put up a little poem here, and I believe that ISSA is going to share this afterwards. And I put up a little poem. He didn't mean it to be a poem, but he published this on LinkedIn. And I thought, wow, man, what a great poem. This is great. This is really and truly the epitome of every attacker, right? They're sitting there going, you let me inside, I'm doing whatever the heck I want, and you don't know about it, and when you do finally start to care, it's too late. You don't have to read it, I'm not going to read it to you. But I really thought, you know, this really encapsulates our current state. This really tells us what's going on. We're not a target because we think we're a target. We're a target because either we're a target so that attackers can use our information against us, they can use us as a leaping off point into another organization. I'm not going to give you the spooky, we're not safe anymore, but the reality is, whatever data and whatever relationships that you're managing on behalf of your organization is something that somebody else wants so that they can commercialize it, so that they can sell it, or so that they can use it against you. And it's only a matter of time. That's as spooky as I get, I guess. So what are our boards doing? I've been to a few of these meetings. This isn't an actual board meeting that I took a picture of. This is, just an internet picture that I'm sure I don't own the licensing rights to, but no, it's actually, I got this legitimately. And so these folks are sitting around the table going, oh yeah, we really need to get serious about security. As a matter of fact, cybersecurity. Somebody told me cybersecurity is really, really important to us. Well, that slide with all the logos, that's what told them that it was really important to them. So the board says, you're my CISO, you own our security program, just go roll more police, protect us better, defend, protect us, roll out more at the perimeter and more to stop bad people from attacking us. As a matter of fact, let's implement all this cyber stuff. We don't really know what it is. We're not clear on what the metrics are, but we do know it's cyber and we do know we need to do it. Recently, actually, I've been to a couple of these. So this year I went to RSA. Who here went to the RSA conference? Come on. Well, you're smarter folks than I, honestly. Who here went to Black Hat? DEF CON? All right. That DEF CON was probably the most valuable of the three that I went to, but that's why it's not represented up here, really. It truly is. Those were the Mardi Gras of the security industry. And Mardi Gras for vendors and analysts. Walking the floor, I felt like, it wasn't going to take much for me to get the beads on everybody's table. Go collect the swag and come back with a backpack full of t-shirts. But what did I really learn about security? What can I really apply to my organization? Because remember, I also have an operational role supporting my organization, not just my customers, my company's customers. And so what was I learning that I could apply back there? I learned that a lot of blinky lights makes security protection faster. What does that mean, right? I've often started to refer to some of these shows as the blinky light show. What's your speeds and feeds, and what are you doing to protect your perimeter and find things faster and detect it faster and the rest of it. But then it started getting really interesting because we started talking a lot, this year especially, we started talking about a lot about the future, right? That orchestration, artificial intelligence, and machine learning and so forth. You know what I learned was starting with process automation. What do we know about process automation? Did I say process right? Usually I say process. But anyways, what do we know about process automation? If you automate a bad process, you're going to get a faster bad outcome, right? Especially as security practitioners, that's the last thing that we want. I mean, for heaven's sake, we're not invited to the requirements or the design, really only the testing phase anyways. So what the heck, we might as well automate a whole bunch of bad processes too. Hey, let's automate our intelligence investigation. We don't have any playbooks, but you know what? The vendor's got some standard playbooks. We'll just use those automated playbooks. They make no sense to our business, but it's automation, right? So I'm not saying that automation is bad. What I'm saying is automation is still an automation of a business process. It's an automation of a business problem. Orchestration, right? Hopefully you guys appreciate the imagery here. I've been starting to watch this show. I know it's an old show, right? It's the Symphony in New York or whatever. It's been around for a while. It's on Amazon. I'm not pumping the show, but it's an interesting show, and I thought, orchestration, yeah, this is good. But really, who wants to orchestrate patching? I didn't see any hands going. Right? Patch Tuesday comes around. Do you want that orchestrated for you? You think that there's orchestrated rollbacks for when it doesn't go so well? Anyway, just say orchestration is great, but it's a business process. What do you orchestrate? Machine learning. Now this is a cool concept because this is where the intelligence that you're building into your technology platforms are actually starting to mimic the processes and paths that human beings are taking. That's great, because I run a security operations center, and guess what? I love more machine learning. If I have staff that are going through and performing routine tasks consistently, I would absolutely love for my systems to pick that up and then start actually replicating those and building upon those and learning from those and taking them a step further. But again, it's built from things that are meaningful. Context. And in the world of security, context is everything, right? You see these big disconnects between vendors, their suppliers, and their customers and organizations, and it usually happens as a result of the lack of context. Well, artificial intelligence. Now that was, and has been, and will continue to be a big buzzword this year. And it does have some great advancements. It does have some really applicable capability. Who here, be honest, who here has a security program that is capable of being adapted into artificial intelligence? I don't. I can tell you right now. There's too much context. And the sophistication and integration between the tools doesn't necessarily exist to the degree that I think that a lot of folks think there is. Yeah, it's really great when you're talking about robotics and other concepts. It gets a little bit more difficult when you're talking about protection, detection, response, containment, countermeasures. That starts to get a lot more complicated. I was, and I apologize if Bella's here in the room because I don't think you would be. I was sitting on a plane beside a fellow that when I was coming back from RSA, he says, hey, you know, my whole SOC, they live in virtual reality. Virtual reality. All of his analysts trace down alerts and threats through using their VR equipment. And all I can think about is these zombies walking around, going like this, walking into each other, and I can only imagine what that looked like if there was really, truly a step one that happened, right? You know, people bumping into each other. You know, I guess our workers' compensation claims would be up dramatically. But I come away from these things and I keep thinking to myself, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's great. I think we should have a view to the future. I really do. I think that it's inspiring to the young people that are attending this college today to have that view to the future and to participate in it and to be a part of it. But we can't forget all the years and years and years of business process that we've developed in order to be sustainable organizations. Yeah, there are new organizations that are fully cloud-based, and fintech, and health tech, and all the rest of it, and they're embracing new business models, and they're shattering old business models, and that's great. But there's a lot of us that still have to live with those old business models. Because I don't know the last oil company that I worked for that was going to throw away a $5 million SCADA investment. Got to work with it. You got to figure it out. And by the way, it's a control system, and the control guys don't like talking to the corporate systems guys. Stay out. It's mine, right? So how do we embrace that? How do we bring those two groups together? How do we bring business, IT, and security together? So I came back from one conference, and I gave a call to the fellow I work for, the CEO of the company. I said, hey, listen, I came up with a great idea. I've invented a artificial cyber machine intelligence platform. He says, what does it do? It sounds really cool. I said, it increases our profits by 20%. What else does it do? No, that's it. This is packaging. He says, packaging's okay. I had a fella, I say the marketing guy, right? It was, truly. Sat down with me, it was a new, in one of my previous organizations, sat down with me, and he said, the single biggest differentiator for us as a company is me, marketing. I said, really? He said, yeah, I guess if you're pushing a product into the market, if you're pushing a solution into the market, I guess that makes sense. But then you get bands like Nickelback. I'm sorry to all the Nickelback fans here. I apologize. I'm also Canadian, I said that. I did find that comical when I came across it though. Queensland kids were very, they got a good sense of humor. But the reality is, early in my life, I grew up in the music industry. And I always used to question myself, how did some of these bands ever get successful? Yeah, marketing, it's a differentiator, for sure. Doesn't mean they're good. It just means that they had a great agent, and they had good marketing, and they had a record label that could push them. Security is no different. Security vendors, security products, they're no different. You really, truly need to know that they're actually solving the problems that they're saying they're solving. So when you dig into this, so what does artificial intelligence mean to you, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor? Oh, well, my engineer went to the washroom, and he'll be back in 20 minutes, and you can talk to him about it. And I got a lot of that. Explain to me, what do you mean by artificial intelligence? What do you mean by machine learning? And if they can't tell you within the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes of a conversation, it probably doesn't exist, or at least it doesn't exist at a level where you can consume it easily. So, as I said, there's a lot of businesses that are embracing a new business model, moving everything to the cloud. It's safer, it's faster, it costs less. I mean, it doesn't cost less. It can. Is it safer? You still need to implement security controls. Is it faster? It could be. Do you know where your data resides? Is it in the cloud in the US? Is it in the cloud in Canada? Is it in China? I don't know. You can apply those concepts to your trust relationship or your partnership agreement or your service agreement with the cloud providers to ensure that certain data sits certain places. But again, it involves some level of compliance, some level of security. Right? Well, it's secure cloud. We got the secure cloud. Yeah, but you have to configure the tools. Right? You still have to configure the tools. And you have to implement the controls and the policies that reflect the threat tolerance of your business. Remember this guy? He had the cloud. He had the first cloud. Right? Was it safe for him? He configured his tools incorrectly. My kids like that better than you guys do. I'm offended. And they don't even know. They weren't even around for 1977 when this was out. Actually, I think this was 79. But the reality is, just because it has the presumption of being safer, it has the presumption of being faster, it still doesn't mean you can't be caught off guard by the bad guys. Really. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I gave it away again, I said about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the some recent analyst reports. So every here knows about the Verizon breach report. I like it. I really do. I think it's valuable. Thank goodness that wasn't one of the things that they did away with. I think it's great. But I do want to talk about a little bit of inconsistencies between 2017 and 2018 from a security practitioner perspective. So I have in comparison 2017 and 2018. Has anybody even seen these before? Some folks read it in the past. So maybe you can't see it from here. I'll do my best to point out the highlights that I have on here. If you want the breach reports, they're available for free. All you have to do is give them your private information. So 12% in this year's study, 2018, 12% of all breaches involved actors identified as nation-state affiliated. That's not new. Who here thinks that's new? Okay, that's pretty good. Could it be because of this? It's hot in the news, so it's more top of mind. So we included it in the breach report. It's not my breach report, and this isn't a conspiracy theory, and I'm not trying to point out things that, why does 7-Eleven have locks on the door? If they're open 24 hours, I think everybody knows why. But I'm just saying that really, it showed up. Could it be because it's mainstream? Could it be because it's top of mind? Not because it's only the first time it's ever presented itself. As being a person that owns shares in Nortel, it's not the first time, honestly. How about this one? Who are the victims? Well, 24% of breaches in 2017 were targeting financial services organizations. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because financial services organizations have money. And they have the personal identifiable information of other people that have money. It's not even on 2018. It went away. Banks have done a great job. They disappeared. Right? They're not a target anymore. Good for them. However, 58% of businesses now are categorized as small business. It is true. It's always been true, right? Who gets the reference here? It's imagery. They didn't get to target by targeting Target. They didn't get to target by doing a brute force attack, walking right through the front door of Target. They came in through a small business. How do you think that small business did? Where do you think they are? Do you think their shares are trading at par again? Or do you think they're out of business? I don't think they're out of business, but I think they're doing not as good as Target. Target rebounded. The small HVAC company didn't. Not so well. How about, what are the tactics they use? So, 81% was through weak passwords in 2017. It's not even represented in 2018. We got phenomenally better at passwords in 2018. We went from 81% to none. So apparently passwords aren't a threat vector anymore. Again, when you're reading analyst research, context. Take into context what is current affairs, what are the current state, what are the things that concern business owners and large enterprise at the time that these reports are being written. Not all of them will match up and will support what you actually need to get done as a security practitioner or somebody that runs a security program. I think there's one person that would agree that passwords are still a problem. Anyone from Hawaii, I apologize. There was some pretty funny network statistics that came out of that though too. I won't get into it. What else is in common? Well, 13% of breaches were motivated by the gain of strategic advantage or espionage. Remember I said Nortel? Anybody remember how it happened there? Well, also, 68% of breaches took months or longer to discover. I was actually brought in because the IT organization of a company kept refreshing, re-imaging their laptops because users were having a problem with them. Only to find out that for 39 months they had an APT. And then we had to reinfect a portion of the network in order to understand what the APT was trying to do. What were the attackers trying to do? Again, this is not new. This is not new to us. Espionage has been around a really, really long time. The thing is that espionage doesn't necessarily always look like, big bad China. Oftentimes, it looks like some recruited, elderly senior citizen that is looking for part-time income, that's doing something that maybe they know or they don't know. Espionage doesn't manifest itself like James Bond. It really doesn't. And I think we just need to understand that the context of these reports that are being written and the analyst views that are being written will not always support the actual programs that we're trying to put into place. Yes, they can be used for fear, uncertainty, and doubt in a lot of cases, and in a lot of cases they represent the opinions of those being surveyed. But again, this threat's been around for a long time. I really, honestly, I don't understand how we got to where we were in one of the single largest breaches that we've seen that actually has demonstrated, and I apologize if there's anyone from X, because I understand you're getting a lot better, but that actually demonstrates damages. They didn't leak PII of their customers. I was not a customer. Anybody here was a customer by choice of Equifax, a credit rating organization? Probably not. Comes down to blocking and tackling. Sorry, I was going to choose like A&M or whatever, but I thought, that's too spiritual here for you guys. And if I would have put up like OU, and that wouldn't have gone well for me. So I tried to pick a picture that, it's Trinity, hopefully it's nobody anywhere near. But really it comes down to the blocking and tackling, right? What are the basics? What is it that we do in order to protect our organizations? So, things to consider. Are you regulated? Could be. Maybe I'm a financial services organization. Maybe I'm a healthcare organization. Maybe I'm an oil and gas company. Maybe I'm regulated in some way, fashion, or form. Well, what controls do you have in place? How often do you assess those controls? If you're regulated, you assess those controls as often as the regulators come and audit you in preparation of that audit. Who here thinks that compliance is security? Awesome. Compliance is not security. Regulation only enforces the bare minimum. Or, okay, so maybe the bare minimum, maybe the bar keeps raising, maybe it keeps going up, but the reality is that you need to make it applicable across an entire industry, not contextually valid for your business, which may have different strategies. Maybe I'm a financial services company that wants to open up retail banking in Nigeria. Well, you would sit back and go, who in the world would do that? It's wrought with fraud. Well, it is if your only strategy is protection. I'm going to stop fraudsters from getting access. And I use this because this is a real world life case. It's a case study. But if you understand what market you're entering into and you understand the requirements, not just the regulatory and compliance requirements, but if you actually understand your threat tolerance and your ability to protect, detect, and respond, maybe you're going to balance that differently. Maybe you won't put all of your effort on the protection. Maybe you'll start swaying it towards detection, and maybe so you'll even sway it more towards response, right? So in this particular case, when this bank wanted to expand its services into Nigeria, what they did is they started focusing on not having a 7-day turnaround time for responding to incidents of fraud. They mandated a 48-hour turnaround time period for incidents of fraud, losing less money, thus making it very profitable to actually expand into that region. So I can go into a lot more depth. I'm out there later if you want to in that case study, but the reality is compliance isn't always the answer. The answer is defense in depth. The answer is what is the threat tolerance of your organization and how are you applying the tools and the processes that you have to achieve that maturity that they require. What are your assets? How many organizations would be able to say, I know what my assets are, I know where they are, and I know which ones are more higher priority than others. It's easy if you got 20 assets. It's not so easy when you have 200,000. Maybe you have group, I don't know. But oftentimes, I run into this blissful ignorance around, no, we're good. Hey, we passed compliance, we're good. So why did we get breached? Because compliance isn't necessarily security. And compliance doesn't necessarily always naturally align with your company's risk tolerance. That's our job. Our job is to be able to define that. Our job is to be able to take and translate the business requirements into threat tolerance, and then come back with solutions, hopefully that the organization funds, or signs off on rejecting for closing that gap. You say, well, you know what? Kevin's a good guy. Sorry, Kevin. I don't know if Kevin's here. I just made up that name. He built our wireless infrastructure. Why can't he do security? Operational considerations. Do you review your logs? I know nobody wants to do that. It doesn't sound very sexy or fun. When was the last time you looked at your alert framework? Now, I'm not talking about MITRE attack framework and something really sophisticated and hard to implement, although it's pretty straightforward. But, really, when's the last time that you looked at your alert framework to see if it actually supports the needs of the analysis that you need to do against what's in your environment? Is there workflow and escalation for vulnerabilities? Because guess what? Vulnerability is where people from the outside usually get in. Oftentimes, it's the result of human vulnerabilities, but more often, it's because of unpatched vulnerabilities or unpatched systems that you knew were unpatched, but because you didn't really workflow that, you didn't have any priority around patching those systems other than a report and a dialogue back and forth, I guess, between security, IT ops, network ops. And I'm not pointing out that these are bad people. Everybody's got a lot of things to do other than patching systems. But the reality is, if you could prioritize those things, and if you could workflow those in a way that you're not expending energy on the things that have less meaning, absolutely would be a benefit and would add context. Finally, do you have an incident response plan? I lived through this firsthand. An incident happened. The first time that the executive team of the organization had ever been involved in any kind of incident. And you know, when the shit hits the fan, pardon my language, that is not the time that you want to test the salt of any executive. Because that could go any different direction. Arguments, gorillas pounding their fists on their chest, people taking ownership for things that they had no ownership for. You know, we have a saying in the security world, right? Domain authorities. There's the domain authority for these things, and then there's the ultimate domain authority that reconciles between two domains. You don't want to learn that lesson during an active event. You really don't. So, we're great at integration, right? Who here even knows who this guy is? Sorry, this is a very Canadian reference. Wow. Okay, his name's Red Green. His actual name is Steve Smith. He's a good family friend. I love the guy. He's very, very funny. If you guys ever get a chance, go to YouTube and look at the Red Green show. Maybe you won't get to do it, but he's a very funny guy. And duct tape won't save us anymore. If you ever Google the guy, you'll understand what I mean by duct tape. Buying security controls, implementing security controls, is like buying a treadmill, but not using it. If you don't use it properly, you're not going to lose weight. Don't look at me. I know. My wife tells me all the time. I don't need it. But really, if you had clothes on your treadmill and you're not using it, don't expect to get thinner. Don't expect to get more in shape. If you have them, you got to configure them properly, and you got to use them. How about open source? Now, I have fully embraced open source. I love open source. Not orphan open source, mind you, because there's a difference. There's open source, and then there's orphan open source, something that somebody developed in a community just kind of left on its own to evolve into nothing. But supported open source, like ELF, Elastic, or Logstash, love it. I love open source. But it's hard, right? In your organization, well, we should really embrace open source because it doesn't come with commercial licensing costs. Well, remember Kevin? Kevin's now Malcolm. And Malcolm costs a lot more than Kevin. And it's complex. And if you don't have a process for adopting open source in your environment, when Malcolm leaves, you're left with whatever he leaves behind, or she. Sorry I couldn't find a picture of the woman. I'll blame Google for that. So, how often do you review your SLAs? How many folks in the room outsource their security in some way, shape, or form? Come on. You can be honest. I'm not your counselor. How often do you review your SLAs? Every time the contract comes up? Is it legal that reviews them? Or is it information security that reviews them? How many folks take over a contract that was not negotiated by themselves and don't have the opportunity to review and renegotiate the SLAs? It's your right as a customer. It should be your right. Those SLAs are the trust relationship between you and your vendor. Do you utilize tools provided by cloud vendors? If you do, they provide tools. You need to configure them properly. You probably need to have staff or some time to spend to learn them. Does the escalation process with your partner support your business? So if you do outsource your relationship, if you pick up the phone, is it swipe your credit card here? Or is it, hey, yeah, we're here to help you. We're responsive. We're going to jump on it. It needs to match the sense of urgency that you have as a company. It absolutely does. And then, do you think outsourcing includes liability? Because if you do, your vendor doesn't think that. Just so you know, you gotta get that clear. You still own the liability for any breaches. You may be able to deflect, but you still, in the mind and eyes of your customer, you own the liability. Does anybody remember the storage vendor that Equifax used that was housing all the PII? Nope, they remember Equifax. You can't pass the buck on this stuff. You really can't. Yes, it is. I know it's energy. And I'll tell you what, this may work. This may work on the shopping channel. But I think I actually tried that when we were kids. We tried to use the rotisserie chicken thing. Set it, forget it. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. And quite frankly, you just never know how fast that machine's going to push stuff out on the other side. I think I'm coming to a close here, so I'm going to just push past this to say, every day we hear the word cybersecurity, every day we hear it now. Whether it's meaningful or not, that's what we hear. I'm telling you that in this world, in this space, in our lives, it's like establishing a relationship with a general practitioner, your doctor. Right? I have a great meeting with my doctor. We have a good checkup. He says, hey, you know what? Your blood pressure is a little high. I'm going to prescribe some medication for you. Are you going to take the medication because the doctor told you? Maybe, right? You probably think that the person's credible, he or she, your doctor. Well, they went to school. They know this stuff. Thinks I have high blood pressure. I better take the medication. If the next meeting with your doctor is here and they say, hey, no, we got to go in for surgery, are you going to get a second opinion? Probably. Especially if that's what's on the other side of the table when you go in for your checkup. That's not a picture of me. I know my eyes look like that because I was up early this morning. But in all reality, so I'm here for a good part of the rest of the day. Hopefully you found this interesting. Hopefully you found this a little bit entertaining. Hopefully you took away a couple of tidbits that were compelling for your own security program. None of it was prescriptive. Hopefully it just gives you some insight as to the things that I find kind of oddities about the general community and the direction that we're heading right now. It's still very much a business problem. And I think that the best thing that we can do as security professionals is to educate the business to understand their role in solving this problem, not our role in preventing it from happening alone. Thank you. Thanks very much.